Greetings shippers, welcome back, and it's time to begin the process of easing into a certain ship. We could jump right in, but then we would miss this beautiful small shippable highlight. We're going to be talking about a DC pairing. It's the start of Clex, so get ready, because we're going to be taking a look at one of the Clexiest moments in a DC animated film. So Clexy.
Who's your daddy?
If you like taking a look at some of these smaller outings, then hit that like button, because there's tons of little moments tucked away, hiding and things. Also, before we get started, if you haven't already, please do follow on social media to stay up to date, know when we're streaming, and just come on over and chit chat about fandom. It's a good time, I swear. Now, it's time for some love for soups. Let's take a look at this. For decades now at the time of this recording, DC has had a stream of animated features being produced. Initially, these were tied to the extremely successful DCAU, that being the DC Animated Universe, which started with Batman the Animated Series in 1992. The first DC animated film was one still highly regarded to this day, which even received a theatrical release when it first premiered in 1993, this being Batman Mask of the Phantasm. For the duration of the DCAU, the films released would correspond with it, or at the very least clearly be taking place within that universe, featuring its canon and backstories. All of this changed when the DCAU ended in 2006 with the conclusion of Justice League Unlimited. Now, for the first time in 14 years, it was necessary for a new direction. Now, DC Animation had already begun to produce shows outside of the DCAU, such as The Batman and the much-beloved Teen Titans, which had even had its own film, a made-for-TV movie, entitled Teen Titans Trouble in Tokyo in 2006. The Batman had also had a made-for-TV movie in 2005, Batman vs. Dracula. However, as for the mainstream, produced for either theater or direct purchase, the animated verse had yet to stray. In 2007, DC animated films returned, now as the DC Universe Animated Original Movies, or the DC Universe Original Movies. They decided to focus on adapting popular comic story arcs, and started off with a classic and a landmark storyline, the death of Superman. The death of Superman was a crossover story event from 1993, wherein the Man of Steel met his demise at the hands of Doomsday. The story actually came about as a result of a joke made out of frustration, so now it's time for a little bit of backstory. Since the mid-80s, writer John Byrne had been helming Superman. He had also softly rebooted it with great success. However, he left in 1988, meaning that not only did his run have to be taken over by a new writer, but it also had to be coordinated with the other ongoing Superman titles. As a result, stories now had to be more interconnected due to shifting trends within comics, coinciding with the multiple runs, which was not in and of itself an uncommon practice. So whereas Byrne had been able to work pretty much independently, the new Superman creative staff had to attend what came to be known as Superman Summits. At these meetings, it was said that it was rare for people to agree on anything, and they not only had to discuss how all of the Superman plots would tie together, but how it would work for Superman overall, all of the potential Superman properties ongoing. In 1991, at one of these summits, inker Jerry Ordway joked, "Why don't we just kill him?" The idea took off and the editors loved it. They felt it would be a great way to tie their Superman comics together even further, which was designed to ramp up Superman's personal story and angst, and build more and more buzz for the eventual wedding, that being between Clark Kent and Lois Lane. This was complicated by the live-action series The Adventures of Lois and Clark, a series that would be airing at the same time as this planned arc, and also had plans to have the titular characters get married, and DC wanted these two events to occur at the same time. In fact, it was this that led to much of the writers' strife, because it meant that the writers had to change their storyline and postpone it. So in fact, the series Lois and Clark has a big hand in the death of Superman's storyline getting greenlit, and also with its pacing. The story was meant to show the devastation such battles would wreak, and that even Superman could fall, and not just to kryptonite. It was huge.
Jeannie Most reports, can it be true? Superman will die November 18th at the hands of a villain named Doomsday?
Up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's a corpse. Come mid-November, Superman will be flying all right to heaven. His S will grace his casket rather than his chest. After 54 years, DC Comics has decided to kill off Superman. DC Comics confirms that a character named Doomsday will kill Superman. Why?
And after 50 some odd years, to get people to notice, sometimes you have to go to extreme.
The Man of Steel has proven to be as vulnerable as the mere mortals who've looked up to him for more than half a century. Superman died Wednesday. East Greg Agnew reports on a world without the first superhero.
That's a terrible thing. One less fantasy figure. I mean, what are us women to do? Who can we look up to if not Superman?
When DC Comics killed off the Man of Steel in a bout with an underworld villain. As OCN's Leslie Kane reports, the superhero was laid to rest and remembered at an El Toro comic book store on Friday.
Superman died in edition 75. The ink and paper format that gave him life 54 years ago did away with him Wednesday. Death is proving to be a rebirth in comic book sales. The Death of Superman edition comes double-sized, free-bagged, with a pull-out poster and a Daily Planet obituary.
I think I remember him best as a friend, because that's how I knew him. Not as the hero, but as someone who I fought with.
I'll just always remember him as a strong man, yet very gentle. He was noble, strong, courageous. He was a Superman.
And the nation, nay the world, mourned. Not just Lois. Of course, he ultimately came back. He had a wedding to attend after all. And these days, the Death of Superman is considered a 3-story arc, consisting of Doomsday, Funeral for a Friend, and Reign of the Supermen. So it was only natural that this story should be quite the contender for adaptation. However, with all of that said, the 2007 film Superman Doomsday is loose when it comes to being one. In fact, it is more accurate to say it was inspired by that story arc. There is even a 2018 DC animated film, The Death of Superman, which was made to be a more accurate adaptation because it is well known that the 2007 version was rushed, condensed, and greatly altered. Of the most recent film, Tim Beadle stated that this film is much less condensed and will include many of the fan favorite moments from the story that were left out of Doomsday. Despite its lack of accuracy, the 2007 film did pretty well at the time, though for many fans it wasn't exactly what they would have hoped for, but for others it was an exciting beginning of a new DC animated film era. So if this film is not exactly the most accurate depiction of the death of Superman, then what does it have going for it? Well, it so happens that this film is so Clexy. So very, very Clexy. The Lex in this film is all over Superman, in very suggestive, BDSM-y, and subdommy ways. Those are different things, and yes to both.
You are the naughty little. Why did you leave me? Why? We had so much unfinished business. Who's your daddy?
There's a lot being implied here. A lot of pathos for such a short sequence. A codependence, a desire, a need to best, kink. The moment also comes out of nowhere. There's no build-up, no warning. It's just all of a sudden, thirsty Lex. This isn't the only instance either. The film opens with a monologue by Lex that could be read if one so chose as extremely thirsty.
Just look at him. So sleek, so powerful, so beautiful. Like some great golden god made flesh.
It is no doubt an attempt to depict Lex as obsessed and unstable, but it doesn't play that way for everyone. Or it does, but with a shippy overtone. Lex in general in this film is very thirsty.
He was more than your constant rescuer. You must be terribly lonesome without him.
Yes.
Then you need someone to take his place. Someone big and strong.
What's fascinating about these moments is that they are an anomaly for shippers. SuperBat, Bat Jokes, WonderBat, these moments have been there before in the animated verse. But Clex was something most expected to only find on Smallville. And it was the most dedicated shippers who had managed to find glimpses of it in the DCAU. Smallville was a successful teen drama series about Clark Kent growing up and becoming Superman, which aired from 2001 to 2011, and introduced many to the concept of pairing Lex and Clark for the first time, thanks to retconning their backstory and making them friends. Although it was more complicated than that. It was interesting. Some wonder if that series had an impact on how this version of Lex was portrayed, though there hasn't been anything to indicate that one way or the other. Others postulate that perhaps the film was going for a more Batman and Joker style vibe, which would of course ramp up the shippability. Regardless, Superman Doomsday is a fascinating, inaccurate outing, with some bizarre, but if you're a shipper of these two, appreciated moments. Is it worth watching the entire film for them? Only you can decide that. So there you have some brief glimpses of Clex outside their natural habitat. Enjoy as we gear up to tackle the mountain, the madness, That was Clex. Have you seen Superman Doomsday? If so, what do you think? Are there more shippable Lex and Clark animated moments out there? Is Clex still alive and well for you, or was it never a thing for you at all? Share all of your thoughts down below, and you know the drill, numbered if possible, because I love a good essay comment. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend it discussing fandom with me. I always appreciate it. There are, as always, more videos coming soon, so if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. I will see you all again when I can, and until then, let's get to that outro. Bye-bye. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to all of my patrons, names on the side, for helping to make these videos possible. There are, as always, more videos coming soon, so until then, stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.